Welcome to OnlyVet. In this video, we will be discussing axial skeleton. Skull, vertebral column, ribs, and sternum are the components of axial skeleton. So here, we will be restricting ourselves to the vertebral column itself. In next upcoming videos, we will deal with the other components of the axial skeleton. Vertebral column is also called as the backbone, and which is the fundamental part of axial skeleton. Vertebral column is made up of number of vertebrae, and those vertebrae are situated along the dorsomedial line from the skull to the end of tail. The vertebrae are irregular bone and they are unpaired in number. These vertebrae are classified as two types: true vertebrae and false vertebrae, based on their movement. If the vertebrae remain free throughout the life and they are in movement, such vertebrae are termed as the movable or true vertebrae. And those vertebrae which get fused with the adjacent vertebrae, they are termed as fixed or false vertebrae. The whole vertebral column of the body can be divided into 5 regions. Those are the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal. Accordingly, they will form the skeleton of the neck region, back region, loin region, croup region, and the tail region. Now, one more important point is the vertebral formula. Vertebral formula is nothing but in each species, the number of vertebrae in each region are fixed, and those are expressed as C7, T13, L6, S5, and coccygeal 18 to 20. This is for ox, which means there are 7 number of cervical vertebrae in ox and 13 thoracic, lumbar, or 6 sacral, or 5 and coccygeal ranges between the 18 to 20. When it comes to sheep, C7, T13, L6, S5, coccygeal 16 to 18. And in case of horse, one need to remember the thoracic vertebrae are 18 in number and the coccygeal vertebrae are 15 to 21. And in case of pig, the thoracic vertebrae are 17 to 14 to 15 and the sacral vertebrae are 4. And when it comes to fowl, there are two important things one need to remember. Cervical vertebrae are ranges between 13 to 14 and thoracic vertebrae are 7 in number. In fowl, there is a fusion between the lumbar and sacral vertebrae, and those are in 14 number. These 2 points are very important when it comes to the vertebral formula of the fowl. In fowl, cervical 14 vertebrae and lumbosacral fusion contain 14 vertebrae. And the classical, that is ox, which contain C7, T13, L6, S5 and coccygeal 18 to 20. And in case of horse has got 18 thoracic vertebrae. And again, vertebrae are also classified as the typical vertebrae and atypical vertebrae. Those vertebrae which got body, neural arch, and the prominent vertebral processes, such vertebrae are called as the typical vertebrae. And those vertebrae which lack the body or neural arch or the vertebral processes, so such vertebrae are called as the atypical vertebrae. A typical vertebrae has got body, neural arch, and the processes. Firstly, we will look at the body. Body is solid rod and which has got 2 ends and 2 surfaces. The anterior end is convex, whereas the posterior end is concave. The anterior end of the one vertebra meets with the posterior end of the preceding vertebra. In between them, there is a disc, and that disc is called as the intervertebral disc, and which is made up of 2 parts, the fibrous part and cartilaginous part. Therefore, this intervertebral disc is called as the fibrocartilaginous intervertebral disc. Now, let us look at the 2 surfaces of the body. The first one is the dorsal surface. Dorsal surface of the body is flat and which forms the floor of the vertebral foramen. And the ventral surface of the body has got the ventral spine. This is the ventral spine, and to which the muscles and ligaments will get attached. Now let us look at the neural arch. Neural arch is situated on the superior face of the body. With the body, it forms a ring, and that ring is nothing but the vertebral foramina. Each vertebra has got its vertebral foramina. A number of vertebra are situated in a line, and those foramina will make a canal, and that canal is called as the vertebral canal or spinal canal, which is for the lodgement of the spinal cord. Now, one more important point is that neural arch has got two halves. This is the one half and this is the other half. Each half has got two parts. One is the vertical part and another one is the horizontal part. This vertical part is nothing but the pedicle and this horizontal part is nothing but the lamina. Now let us look at pedicel. This pedicel has got two edges. Those are the anterior edge and the posterior edge. Those edges has got the notches. Those are called as the vertebral notches. When number of vertebrae are in a line, those notches will create a intervertebral foramina in between the two vertebrae. So that is for the passage of spinal nerves and the vessels. With the help of this image, we can appreciate the things with more precise. So we need to differentiate between the vertebral foramina and intervertebral foramina. Vertebral foramina is formed with the body and the arch. The neural arch, with the help of body, it forms a foramina, and when number of vertebrae are there in a line, and the number of foramina will create a canal. So that canal is nothing but a spinal canal through which the spinal cord will run. This is the vertebral foramina. When the pedicel has got the notches on the both anterior edge and the posterior edge. So when these notches will align with the other notches of the adjacent vertebra, and in between those things, in between those vertebra, it will create a foramen, and that is nothing but the intervertebral foramen. So that is for the running of the spinal nerves and the vessels. This is about the intervertebral foramina and vertebral foramina. Now let us look at the third and the very important part of the typical vertebra, that is the processes. There are 6 different types of processes are there, and those are the articular or oblique processes, transverse processes, spinous processes, ventral spinous processes, mammillary processes, and the accessory processes. First one is the articular processes. They are also called as the oblique processes. They are 4 in number. 2 of which are placed on the anterior and other 2 are placed on the posterior edge of the arch. And these articular processes has got the articular area. With the help of this articular area, they articulate with the adjacent vertebra. Therefore, they are termed as the articular processes. And the joint which they make with the adjacent vertebra is a synovial type of joint. This is about the articular processes. Now, let us look at the transverse processes. Each vertebra has got 2 transverse processes on either side of the body. Their size and shape varies with the different regions. Now, the third process is the spinous processes. Each vertebra has got one spinous processes, that is projecting from the middle of the dorsal part of the neural arch. The spinous processes are also called as the neural spine or the superior spine, or also the dorsal process. And their size, form, and direction is varies from the different vertebra placed in the different regions. Now, the fourth one is the ventral spinous process. They are also single and they are situated on the ventral aspect of the body of the vertebra. Now, let us come to the fifth process, that is the mammillary processes. These processes are situated between the transverse process and the anterior articular processes, or on the anterior articular process itself. So try to imagine the mammillary processes are the processes which are situated between the transverse process and the anterior articular processes. This is the one case. In another case, sometimes the mammillary processes may present on the anterior articular process itself. These are mainly noticed in the lumbar vertebra. This is about the mammillary processes. And the last one is the accessory processes. These are situated between the transverse process and the posterior articular processes. So those processes which are situated between the transverse process and the posterior articular processes are called as the accessory processes. For example, here, this is the accessory processes which is situated between the transverse process and the posterior articular processes. This is the accessory process, and this is also noticed in the lumbar vertebrae of the dog. This is about the 6 processes. With this, we completed the general description of the typical vertebra. From next video, we will be discussing regarding the in detail with respect to the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and the coccygeal vertebra. This is about today's. Thank you.